welcome to the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show. It's presented to you by the Hillsborough Economic Development Corporation. I'm Chase Miller. This week on the program, we'll talk with Sam Johnson from Northern Cass Baseball. Also from there, Tommy Butler from the Central Cass Track and Field team. We'll hear from Mike Hendrickson on the nominations and the selections to the North Dakota Lions All-Star Basketball Series. And John Millea will be our senior spotlight here from the Minnesota State High School League. But let's talk a little baseball with Sam here on the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show. Join us here from Northern Cass is the head baseball coach. That is Sam Johnson on the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show. Crazy to think we're already at that time of the season, just a couple of weeks away before we get to the postseason here, Sam. But all things considered, win, lose, or draw, how has everything gone from your perspective up to this point, knowing we're kind of getting to the home stretch here of the regular season?
Yeah, it goes by so fast, you blink and it seems like the season's over, especially when you get a couple weeks delayed at the beginning of the year. But our guys have been so locked in from day one. They come ready to work every day. It helps when you have a big senior class that's got a lot of varsity innings under their belt. But overall, our guys are just locked in and willing to do whatever it takes to win, it seems. And they're a really easy group to coach because of that. I don't have to get on them to stay motivated or to put in extra work or play the game the right way. And so just really proud of the way they've came in with that mentality from the first day and kept it from now. Yes, there's a little time left and you start to get into a little bit of a slump middle of the season, especially on days like today when it's pouring outside. It's tough to stay motivated, but yeah, they're just such a good group of guys and I'm grateful to be a part of it.
It always helps when you have a good chunk of experience with a senior class that you're nearing almost 10 seniors, with 8 guys there, and obviously juniors that have been able to have varsity experience as well here, Sam. So how is the senior class just in general? What's a trait or characteristic about those seniors, to your point earlier, that has made it maybe just you get out, you're on the diamond, guys know what they need to do, they know where they need to go in terms of a relay or what time of play you're putting on if there's runners at the corner. So what's the senior leadership been like so far for the crew this season?
Leadership really just, the word that comes to mind is glue. They're guys that have played together since they could swing a baseball bat and throw a baseball. They talk about memories, in T-ball and the summer rec programs as kids still today. And I think that just goes to show their passion for the game, their relationships with one another. And it's really helpful when your guys are friends off the field. So they just have that common understanding of where they're going to be on the field. One thing overall from our seniors this year, they've communicated so much better, in practice and during gameplay. That's helped us be, successful this year. And we've missed that. And so as our younger guys are coming up, I hope they learn that talking on the baseball field is one of the best ways to help you win, especially in close games, but also, in games where you just need to put the gas on a little bit more. And so I hope that, that continues the rest of this year, number one. Our senior class has been around the game more than I think a lot of our players in the past. We've had some really good pockets, but overall, they've just played the game the right way for a long time together. That's built on, the core values of Northern Cass baseball, and we've had a lot of fun along the way.
Before we talk about some of the pitching from your performance, because when I talk with coaches, everybody's saying Northern Cass got a lot of really good pitching, and they got some depth when it comes to that on the mound with different arms. Just what is Region 1 this year like, Sam, with 8 teams instead of 7 teams? Everybody makes tournament. You don't have to worry about, a play-in game, perspectively, if you're the 1 seed, who you're going to be playing in that 6-7. So how's everything been to this point with 8 teams adding Lisbon, which, again, they haven't started from scratch. They've had a Babe Ruth. They've had a Legion. They've had guys, playing summer ball, but just not in April. So what's Region 1 looking like this year compared to prior years?
Region 1's always going to be competitive. Everybody's got a guy that can shut a team down on the mound, and that's why you play every game. Our kids deserve that chance to go out and compete every day, whether you're playing the past state title, the region, or excuse me, the Legion Lisbon team goes out and wins Class B last year. So we knew they were going to be competitive. Love having them in our region. I love having 8 teams. It kind of takes away that subjective 7-team region tournament bracket that was always a hot topic. I think the 8-team double elim bracket is questionable for our region. Yes, we have the pitching, but I know we're not always going to have the pitching. And when you look at how many games it would take to play a double elim at 8 teams, there's a lot of baseball and a lot of innings. And with some of the state regulations that we have right now on appearances and pitch counts and things, it's going to make it tricky. But like we've always said, the best team should come out of the region. And, I hope we're on the right side of that this year with the depth of our guys on the mound. So I would love to kind of see where we could take away a game or two in that bracket. But I do love having 8 teams. It makes it real easy to kind of seed, and then you don't have to worry about plans and things. So I'm happy Lisbon's there. They're super competitive, gritty team. We go down there on Thursday, so it's going to be a great game for us.
As we take a look at some of your pitching with Trey Huzar, Mr. Jacob Otzi, Mr. Matthew Metzger as well, just what are those three guys in general? What do they mean to the club when you get one of those three just, pitching on any given night?
And they just breathe baseball. I can't say enough good things about those three, but also, our other guys like Parker Anderson and Chris Hoyland, who's not really going to throw a ton on the mound for us this year, but can give us an inning or two when we need him. We got guys like Cody Waitson and even Riker Stroman and Brody Zeski threw for us in a varsity game last Friday, and Kason Miller, Jace Aronson, all kinds of guys that can get up there and soak up innings. But those top three between Husar, Osi, and Metzger, you know exactly what you're going to get. It may not be their best day every single day, but we've said it this year. Osi and Metzger's not great days. They gave up 1 run, so we know we're going to be competitive. They're going to be around the zone. They're going to be tough to hit. Our defense is going to need to be on. Yes, we struck a lot of guys out this year with those three. But we know as the year goes on, the hitters start to get a little bit of an advantage compared to April pitching. So I can't say enough good things about them. They deserve the success they've had so far this year with the time they've put in. And I'm just really hoping that they get to experience that region championship because of that love of the game and that passion and that time they've put in.
Go through your catcher as well, Carter Waits, and I know just it's always nice to have a guy that can be a vacuum behind home plate, whether it's throws coming in from the outfield, playing the one hop off of that. Maybe it's just a pitcher throws a curveball and spikes it into the ground, and you got runners on, you can keep it in front of you. So what's it like having Carter, who can be also someone who can minimize the base running game on the opposition at times, behind the plate there as well, Sam?
Yeah, Carter, catching is probably the least experience I know from a coaching standpoint. So a lot of Carter's success is really on him, what he's done, and I think that needs to get out there. That yes, we work on some basic drills, but his success is unmatched at Northern Cass so far behind the plate. He is a dude behind the plate. He's going to do whatever it takes to get done. We might be up 10 with no guys on base and 2 outs, and he's still getting down blocking baseballs. It's just the way he goes about the game. And you're right. He's a vacuum behind there. He's also a guy who is willing to chance it to steal an out. I mean, he's picked off 3 or 4 guys this year just from, pitches and throwing behind runners. To know that our infielders are there and Carter's ready to throw that ball behind runners and try to get outs and things. It just makes teams a little bit more on edge about taking that extra base. And so we always talk about offensively. Let's get that extra 90. That extra 90 is huge. And when we can take that away defensively, it's a huge momentum shift for us. So I feel extremely confident with him behind the plate. I know our pitchers do. I know our infielders do. He's one of those guys that if we didn't have a guy going D1 for pitching and some of the numbers he's put up, he'd make a case for Region Senior Athlete of the Year for sure.
Let's talk about someone who I just saw in Enderlin at the Baseball Classic, who also was a vacuum at second base, and OC literally robbing of a base knock. He's got the typical thing you probably like as coach, right? His uniform's always dirty, it seems like, afterwards, because he's diving on the infield there and finding ways to make plays. When you can get guys like him, and not just OC, but players like him that are in the infield and outfield, where if the ball comes to them, that they're going to find a way to keep it in front of them at least bare minimum, or find a way to make the play. How does that help a pitcher, or how does that help Wade sitting behind the plate going, hey, if they put something in play, we have an opportunity to go make an out here regardless?
Yeah, that's a good question, Chase. And really, our first value at Northern Cass is respect the game. And OC does that to a T. He knows how to play it. We talk a lot about just showing that effort for your guys. And so when that ball gets lined in between first and second base, OC's the first one out there at least diving to show that, hey, I'm here for you. The next one I'm going to make, that one was just hit a little too hard for me. So he's not perfect. We don't ask anybody to be perfect in our program, but some of the plays they've made make them seem perfect. And really, it's just they play the game the right way. They know the situations. They're willing to take balls to the chest to get outs. And you can't teach some of that stuff. That's just the way they go about the game, but also go about life, doing whatever it takes to be successful. I'm just super proud of them.
When you go forward here for the next couple of weeks, Sam, before you get to that Wednesday, May the 14th, and then throughout the weekend into that Region 1 tournament, biggest thing you want to see from your club is what over the next couple of weeks of the regular season is kind of fine tune things and trying to be the top of the region, which right now, as it stands today, you guys have the inside track of, being that number one overall seed. But what's the one thing you want to see moving forward from this club, Sam?
Yeah, there's a lot of baseball to be played yet. We're sitting in a good spot right now, but we can't be content with that. Moving forward, I need to continue to see strikes on the mound. High school athletes are good. They're going to get base knocks. They're going to hit home runs. They're going to hit doubles, but we're not going to be given a bunch of runs through walks and errors. So, strikes on the mound's number one. We shoot for 60% every game. And then also, I'd like us to see come out with a little more firepower once in a while and just kind of put a team, um, respectfully put a team in their place in that first inning or two versus wait for a few innings and second or third time through the lineup. I think we're good enough to hop on pitchers first time through the lineup and score several runs to just kind of make us stand out a little bit more. I'm happy with the way, a lot of the outcomes have gone this year. But I do think we can hop on teams a little bit earlier to set the tone right away. So we're going to continue thinking about, as a coaching staff, how we can do that and prepare our guys for that. As long as they just stay with that gritty mentality throughout the whole game and play the game the right way, we're going to be in good shape. But those are a few things that hopefully we can clean up a little bit between now and May 13th.
Hey,
14th,
Sam.
excuse me.
Hey, Sam. As always, thanks so much for your time and best of luck moving forward.
Jace, appreciate what you guys do for our kids and thank you.
That again, Sam Johnson, the head coach for Northern Cass Baseball. Join us here, part of the North Dakota Lions All-Star Basketball series is Mike Hendrickson, as we did the last couple of years. He's a co-chair when it comes to the North Dakota Coaches Association within the state, tabulating the information, trying to get all that stuff situated, especially the second year of having three divisions here in North Dakota as well. So, Mike, I guess I'll ask you this first. 2 years ago, we were kind of talking about what would it look like with three divisions. Now that you've gone through it for 1 year, how was everything received with the A-B team going up against the Double-A team and having that similar format here the second time around for both the boys and the girls game?
Well, I don't know if there is a perfect solution to this whole thing, but it just seems like that's the way to go. And, after last year, we sat down as a committee and with the coaches, the North Dakota Coaches Association, and discussed it. And it seems like this is the best right now. I mean, again, you look at it as playing three games. Well, that's going to be a big cost and big revenue, I shouldn't say revenue, but a big cost that's probably not feasible for us to do right now. We talk about rotating it around, and then we start looking at, how does the C or the B team, or how does the Double-A team, or how does the A team stand alone? And so it just seems like this is the best way right now, what we have come up with the Lions group and the North Dakota Coaches Association. So about 1 more year, we're going to go, and then we'll reevaluate again. And I think I said that to many, many people, that this is fluid. If we sit down this year and say, well, the games are getting out of hand and they're not so good anymore, so let's do something, and we'll do that. And when that time comes, we'll figure something out.
And the one thing with it, just to remind folks, these are the seniors. There's no other class. It's those who are graduating and moving on to college or their next phase in life. So I guess the question becomes, Mike, do they have to be good in the classroom? Do they have to be an all-state kid? Are they an all-region? What's the criteria that you kind of get into? Because the other point that I want to make mention before you answer that is colleges now getting kids on campus also eliminates some of the players that you probably have nominated in the past because they're already going on college. For example, NDSU, UND, if you're a football player, you're already into camps or you're already taking classes, so you can't do a high school participation once you become to a college athlete. So I know that it has also hindered some of those, whether it's been B, A, or Double-A now, that have made their way that probably would have played in this game that unfortunately aren't unable to because they're moving on to their next phase of their collegiate career.
And that is, you're exactly right there. I mean, I know starting about 3 years ago, which is a great thing. I mean, it's opportunities that our kids from North Dakota now are getting that Division I level. If you're a Division I kid, then with all the new rules and policies, let's get those kids on our campus, because once they're on our campus, they can be in our weight room. We can feed these kids. We can have them do our summer workouts and all these type of things. So a lot of these kids are reporting to school on June 6th or whatever the date is. And then, to come back to Fargo, North Dakota, or to Bismarck to be in this game, I mean, that's a lot of money too. And plus, when they come back, they're missing a Friday, they're missing a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and a Tuesday, and probably a Wednesday of those practices. And so that has been a big part of it. I just know in the double A and even the A level the last years, like I said, I've lost so many players. And, even this year, Mr. Basketball, Mason Claypool is going to be at Illinois State, so he can't play in the game. Hale from Horace, she can't play in the game because she's going to be out at Gonzaga. So that's kind of a big part of this whole thing is which puts some limits on it. And like you said earlier to start this out, is yes, you got to be a good student. We have I think I don't know how many rules, or I should say rules, but just regulations that we're trying to tell kids that, to be in these games, to be in the Shrine football game, the Optimist volleyball game, you have to follow so many rules, during your senior year of not getting yourself in trouble and not being suspended and those type of things. So that also plays a big part to it. And then, there's summer vacations and military commitments. And so, we start out with the selection of trying to find 12 kids for each team. And it narrows down. All of a sudden you got 4 kids from the double A that can't play. So now you go to these alternates, which is great because we're giving kids opportunities to play. Right now our rule in North Dakota is also you can only play in one. If you get chosen for volleyball and basketball for girls, they got to make a choice. In the Shrine game and the Lions game for boys, you got to make a choice. And is that right? I don't know. I guess I can't answer that question. I'm not the one making that final decision. But at the same point, it's like we're getting more opportunities for kids, or more kids getting opportunities to play in these type of games.
You go through it, it'll be July 14th and July 15th in Fargo and Bismarck again. Mike, the 14th in Bismarck, the 15th here in Fargo. I guess what's the one thing if someone's new from the area and they haven't really heard of the Lions All-Star Basketball Series, or maybe their son or daughter, they have a relative that is participating in it. Maybe it's someone that's joining the Lions Club for the first time and they're hearing about this particular event that's coming up in July. What should folks know about the event just in general, and what has it meant to you and those who have either played in it, coaching it, or been a part of it, over the tenure here?
Oh, I think it's a great opportunity. All these All-Star games that we do here in North Dakota are great, but the Lions game to me, started back in the late 70s with just guys, and then I think it was about 1980, 81 we started putting the girls and boys into it, and it's been going that long, and it just gives kids a wonderful opportunity to be around friends, and it's a weekend where they come in and they do a training camp, and the boys are here in Fargo and the girls are in Bismarck, and then they turn around and play those games in Bismarck and Fargo. And I know the last couple of years the gyms have been packed. We used to play at the Dome or the Civic Center, or up at the at the old BSA, or in Bismarck at the Event Center, and it was it was a great crowd. But we moved to high school gyms, and I tell you what, the last 3-4 years these places have been packed. Bismarck High, you got people hanging off the rafters. They're up on the top row, and a lot of people there. We're doing it at South here. We pull in extra bleachers on the ends, and the Lions do just a wonderful job. And those kids that are part of this, it's really neat to see that what these Lions people mean. They're trying to do some service points too with this, where they get the kids out to do some things and see some things, and it's all for a great cause. We talk right now, the players are all trying to do fundraising for there to be part of the team, and the Lions are all selling their program ads and those type of things, and it's just a really neat opportunity. Other states have different things going on. I know Montana they have a round ball classic, and they meet in Havre and play, but it's not the pomp and circumstance that we do. The kids that are here are treated really well. And even in Bismarck, they're treated super. That it's just the opportunity at the Lions. Just they roll out the red carpet for these kids, and it's just like I said earlier, it's just a great opportunity.
Yeah, and I know to your point, just being part of it from a radio and a video perspective over the last probably almost 7-8 years now in some capacity, you better get to that girls' game early, because if you got a kid that you're following on the boys' game, there might not be that seat that you want, because I know 2 years ago, just at Fargo South, to your point, it was a couple deep going into the concession stands area at Fargo South, where they were waiting for the girls' game to finish and hope that some people would leave the girls' game so they could find a seat at the Bruin Den there, Mike. And that's what I think the real cool thing about it is. It has a different atmosphere and a different flair than I think anything that you'll get throughout the course of the season, whether it's regular season, state, or your local region, district, or conference tournament.
Oh, exactly. And it's that neat part of it. And that's kind of why we went with the double A versus the A and B. It's still, hey, let's, as a smaller school, let's go beat the big guys. And that's something that as the coaches, when I'm sitting there at practice, listening to the coaches talk to that first day to their players, and it's competitive. I mean, and it's really neat. And, times are different, and these kids have all played with each other anyway. I mean, they've done AU basketball or travel basketball or something. The A and the B kids and the double A kids, they all know each other anyway. But it's still, hey, we want to walk out of that gym and saying that we won this game. And that's really the neat and fun part. They all like each other. But boy, when the ball is thrown up, it's very competitive. And that's what you're going to see. You're going to see a very competitive game. And like you said, come early, get to that spot so you know what's going on and find that right area and right place you need to be and go that way.
Mike, last thing here. We won't talk about the Lions, but we'll talk about yourself here with Fargo South and just your coaching tenure. I know a lot of people have probably asked you about Jeff Boschee when you're at Valley City and any other particular spot that you've been at here. But just, stepping down, retiring here from Fargo South, just kind of take us through that decision. Take us through some of just your coaching memories that kind of, stand out the most, and just take us through what it means to kind of get to a point, whether it's high school and those who are graduating, right? It's the culmination of the hard work and put together. And same thing as an assistant coach, as a varsity coach, whatever it might be, when you're stepping away, you've obviously culminated a lot of stuff throughout your tenure here.
Well, I enjoy the heck out of it. It's been so much fun. Like you said, I started a long time ago in a little town in Montana called Denton, Montana, and I was the head girls coach and the head boys coach, and I still got a lot of fond memories of those guys. And it was the other day, somebody, when talking to my coach that is out there, I still stay in a lot of contact. He says, "Do you realize these kids are 50 years old right now that you were first coaching out here?" And I said, "Gee, that's really strange. I didn't think of it that way." And so that's part of it, those memories. And then, the memories of even, it's relationships, and it's relationships among referees, coaches. I mean, I got so many friends out there and coaches. I mean, Steve Miller, who's retired a few years ago, and him and I still get together. I mean, he was here in town about a month ago and calls me up, and we went out and had a pop. And it's the relationships that way, and then especially with the players. And you can talk about the Mr. Basketballs, the Jeff Boshees, the Adam Dobmeyers, those type of people. Those are easy. I mean, they're great kids, and they're I should say all kids now, but they were great people. They've done phenomenal things. But then it's the whole program. I mean, there's freshmen that have been great. It's fun. Tom Hoagie was in our program for a few years, and I still like on Sundays and Saturdays watching him on TV golfing. And I said, it's just relationships that you have about them as individuals, and there's good and bad moments all the way through. I mean, my wife keeps saying maybe you'll sleep at night now, because I don't sleep a lot during the season and stuff, and maybe I'll do that. But still, it's like bittersweet. I guess they look at it that route. Is I really enjoy it. I don't think I'm still going to teach for a few more years. So I think next year I'll be somewhere. I'm just not going to be the head coach at Fargo South. I don't think I'll be a head coach anywhere else, but maybe helping out our junior high program or doing something down the lines and going that route. But I've enjoyed the heck out of it. It's so rewarding. I mean, all the way around, it is so rewarding. And we were just having a conversation in our office with Coach Kozel and a couple of student teachers, and just the rewards that you get out of this. How much fun you have, and there's trying times, but there's more times where you can smile and say, all right, something good happened out of that.
Hey, Mike, as always, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck moving forward in your adventures, obviously, there with the Fargo Public School District, and particularly at Fargo South. And looking forward to seeing you this summer, as always, at the Lions All-Star Basketball Series.
Perfect. You've done a wonderful job for us keeping this thing going. And that's the neat part. Every year, we sit down as a group, as Lions and Coaches Association, and your name and your company comes up right away, and we say we're going back to him because they do such a great job. And so keep that part up, and I really appreciate all that you do for us.
And again, Mike Hendrickson with us on the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show.
Grow your hard-earned money at Red River State Bank. We have deposit accounts for checking, savings, business, and money markets. We also have longer-term accounts like certificates of deposit and individual retirement accounts. Now, with 2 locations in Halstead and Fertile, Red River State Bank is ready to help you grow your dreams with deposit accounts for you and your business. Stop in or visit us online at redriverbank.com. Red River State Bank. Growing together. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Treat yourself to a great career at American Crystal Sugar Company. Team up with quality people making quality products. Full-time and year-round in a stable business. With great pay and benefits including time off available from day one, American Crystal Sugar Company invests in you to promote your continued growth and career advancement. Grow your career doing your best work within the world's best beet sugar company. Apply online today at americancrystalcareers.com.
Don't be fooled by that beat-up old cap. Its faded crown represents the tireless work of America's farmers and ranchers. Its sturdy brim, their dedication to providing our nation with a safe, affordable food source. So we'd like to tip our hat to them. Farmers Union Insurance, protecting those that protect America's food source.
Visit with Ryan Opdahl, your local Farmers Union Insurance agent in Hillsboro.
Growers, prepare your fields and yields against the wet conditions for 2025 and beyond with a drain tile project from Chad's Excavating out of Mayville. Drain tiling will improve and increase your yields and land values for years to come. Chad's Excavating provides free, detailed estimates, and with over 40 years of combined success, they provide professional installation and service. Call Chad today to prepare for your future and any questions that you might have. That's Chad's Excavating out of Mayville, helping farmers grow.
There's more at 104. Hillsboro, North Dakota has everything you need on your next road trip. Food, fuel, fun, and family-friendly activities. Stop by and fill up your tank or grab a bite to eat. Have a blast at Goose River Golf Club, the swimming pool, or one of our beautiful parks. There's even ice skating and cross-country skiing. Take in the sights or stay the night so you don't miss a thing. Experience Hillsboro and see why there's more at 104.
You know, parenting is hard for all of us. And so providing those little resources that we can share for those conversations that are hard to have and to kind of be that icebreaker for both professionals, parents, and then open up that conversation to the more engaging conversation that's needing to be had.
Being a parent myself, oftentimes it's the simple things that make a difference.
As a busy parent myself, just engaging with your kids, making it an everyday thing so they know that you're there, they can always come to you when those difficult situations do arise.
Contact Trail District Health Unit in Hillsboro for more information.
Sharing our heritage, sharing our future. Choosing the right bank for your financial needs can be challenging with the many choices available. Dakota Heritage Bank is pleased you're interested in knowing more about what they can do for you. The Dakota Heritage Bank community bank setting is a strong advantage they have over larger, less personal banks. Customers are more than account numbers, they are friends and neighbors. Working together, Dakota Heritage Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Join us here from the Central Cass Squirrels, talking a little track and field here in the spring is their head coach, that is Tommy Butler. And Tommy, this time of the year, I've kind of joked with spring coaches, maybe it's not the best spring we've ever had, but it's definitely not the worst. So it feels a lot better than what it's maybe been the last couple of years. So getting outdoors, senior teams compete just last week at Shanley, seeing what the schedule has where more of your meets are actually happening than getting postponed. What does that do for a coach, and just what does that do for the team as we transition here the last couple of weeks of the season?
Yeah, I think exactly what you said. I think it's awesome that we're outside. It's awesome that we're getting the meets. We just haven't gotten that beautiful 75, 80-degree day yet. But like you said, we haven't had any that have gotten canceled. So for our kids, I think they're excited always to get back out and compete. But I think we're really ready for that really, really nice day. And, it looks like Friday is supposed to be another 55-degree day, which again, it's awesome that we're getting to compete, but I can't wait to see what we do when we get some warm weather, and really see these kids kind of flourish here.
As a coach, what is this course this season? You've already had some that have qualified. You have others that are knocking at the door or they're getting their own PRs. A couple weeks from now, you'll be hosting the Southeast Regional Track and Field Meet in Castleton. Then, give it a week, you'll be making your way to Bismarck for the State Track and Field Meet. So as a coach here, Tommy, what's the next couple weeks like before you get to the postseason here for track and field?
Yeah, I think one, it's track is such a game of attrition, I think people don't think that, but it's, you're trying not to wear your kids out, especially those kids that have already qualified. But we want to keep them where they're staying active. They're still competing, so there's that really fine line that you walk where you're not trying to overdo it with them, but you're also needing them to continue to improve throughout the year. So, for us right now, that's exactly kind of where we're at is, we have a good chunk of our kids have qualified, especially in relays, a few in some individual events. But we got a few more that are kind of on that cusp that, again, I think if we get a great day, some great weather, I think we get a few more in there. But, we're still progressing. We're still kind of in that, we're in that fine-tune mode, where we're not quite lifting quite as much, but we're still trying to maximize as much time as we have, but we're also making sure that we're getting kids ample rest days. A lot of our top end sprinters yesterday on the boys side, they didn't go to our meet, where our younger JV guys got to go and compete. So again, you're just kind of walking that fine line where you're getting kids to still be, chomping at the bit to compete, but also not overdoing them right now.
As you take a look at some of those who have stood out so far, before we got on, we could have gone on for minutes and on end about all the folks that have either have PRs knocking on the door of a school record, have qualified for state. But let's talk about pole vaulting here first on the boys' side, Tommy, with Quam and Wixo. Those two are going back at each other's school records, and you have a competitor in your own school district, not someone that's in your own region. So what does that do every day when you go to track and field practice, where you have someone who is literally pushing you to be your best, but also they're trying to knock you off as well from an individual perspective?
Yeah, I mean, those two are just freaking unbelievable kids too. They're teammates in football, but watching them compete with each other is just awesome. I mean, they're constantly like watching them, at the end of meets, because they're usually the last two that are going. They're each other's biggest supporters. They each got the same kind of helmet this year. They went and got some hockey helmets. They both try to bring a little sauce over to that pole vault area. But I really think that that's what's made our vault team that great, is that those two have really bought into, we're going to make this be cool. We're going to make this be something that's awesome. And, a big shout out to our coach, Kale Kovar, who's, again, just an unbelievable guy, but has really bought into he just pours into those guys. Kale's still in college, so he's sometimes has to meet at some different times, and those boys are all in on that. And it's our whole that vault group is essentially its own team. They're different cats, like they do some different stuff, but they're awesome. They're biggest supporters, but yet, like you said, they're the ones that are pushing each other constantly. They're trying to. I think their big goal is if they can hit 14 feet before the state meet, I got to buy them dinner down at the state meet. So, so I'm hopeful for that, right? I'm a pretty cheap guy, but I'll take that bet anytime, man. I'd love to pay for those guys' meals there.
Yeah, you got a couple more weeks to see if that's going to happen as we get to the end of the month of May here. Also on the fielding side, but on the girls' side, when you got three girls who are chomping at the bit, with Meyer, with Izzy Thompson, with Severson as well. What has worked with those three in particular, just in that particular category here on the jumping meets, and particularly on the long jump here?
Yeah, I mean, those three are one. They made it to state last year. They've competed there before. They love to jump. I mean, it's, again, that long jump group is a group that I get to coach, which is so much fun. But they're always constantly looking to get better. Again, very supportive of each other, wanting the best for each other, but also wanting to compete. And you get to see the best all the time. So, I think that's been something that, again, has I was just talking to a coach at Oak Grove's meet yesterday of, how do we do it with, we have over 30 jumpers that are at our school. And to me, it's just those girls, some of the guys on our team, they've created this culture over there, at the pits of, again, we're going to compete to be our best, but yet we're also going to make this a lot of fun. And so I think, those girls being around each other, seeing greatness all the time, I think it's just that constant thing of I'm striving for more. They're never satisfied. Liv and Izzy are, I think, about 2 or 3 inches away from our school record in the long jump. So, they're fighting to try to get that, to overtake DeConte in that. But, I think just them being around each other just makes it that much better.
And the similar question that I'll ask about the relays, because Central Cass has been known for really good relays here on the boys and the girls side in recent years, Tommy, whether it's been at the regional level or finding them to get to state and find an opportunity to be first or on the podium. What has made the relays so consistent for Central Cass? Once you do have a group of really good boys or really good girls, they graduate, then you'll have to replace all four legs or 3 out of 4, and you have to find new people that come in. But it seems like it's a seamless transition here recently, Tommy. So what's working so well?
Yeah, I mean, again, we have tireless coaches that work like crazy. Tammy Lamar's our sprints coach, who's work especially on our girls' side. I mean, she does so much with them. She helps out with the boys and the girls, but those girls, like we were talking, I help her out a little bit with that of, just how seamless our girls are in their handoffs. Their handoffs are never a question. And we've had, I think we're the state record holders, I think in the 4x1. If not, we're really, really close. And right now, that's with DeConte and Elise in there, who are, two of North Dakota's, I'd say some of the greatest track athletes ever. And right now, our girls 4x1 is 1/100th off of breaking our own school record there. So, and again, did that in a 50-degree day. Like, well, what's that going to look like when we get it, when that track starts getting heated up? But again, I think it's the tireless work of our coaches. And then our kids we want to be great in the relays. Like, it's doing individual stuff is awesome. And that is really fun, but winning and competing in a relay is something that we try to push for the kids. But I mean, the kids are the ones that want that badly. And again, I think it starts to become its own little individual group that they work tirelessly at doing that. They want to get extra handoffs in. We try to keep them with that same group the entire year, so that we keep those, like you said. So that transition, when one person comes out, we already know we got another one that's ready to step right in and fill those shoes.
As a track coach, you kind of alluded to it earlier here, Tommy, and last thing for you, when you have different meets throughout the course of this season, some are more featured meets that, as for example, at Shanley, they had a couple that were a featured event, like a 300-meter hurdle. Maybe you have a participant that's good enough to go to the Howard Wood Relays or be asked to go down to Sioux Falls and compete in that. Then you have your local meets where you're just trying to qualify and make sure you have kids that are getting better with PR. So how do you look at a schedule, number one, and try to best navigate it, knowing there is going to be meets where we're bringing everybody towards here. We're trying to win number one. We're trying to get team totals. We're trying to do everything. But then there is other meets where, hey, you know what? We might be competing here, but we're not bringing 50 kids. Maybe we're bringing 10 or 15 kids just because we want to give some kids a time off, or, hey, they're really looking at this particular discus or 300-meter hurdles, and this is the featured event, and there's some really good athletes, and we want to see where our kids compete against, some of the best across, the tri-state area.
Yeah. So what we try to do is, we've really bought into track as a team sport, and we all know that. But I mean, we have 150 some kids out, junior high to high school, so there's a lot of moving parts. But our number one thing for our high school kids is we want to try to get as many kids to the state meet as we can. I mean, I love football. Football is my favorite thing to do, but the state track meet is unbelievable. We've gotten to play in a state championship game in football, but the environment that's at that state meet, especially when it's a nice warm day, you're talking almost 10,000 people are there watching you compete. So we want to try to get as many people there as we can. So we're always looking to see how can we get those kids in there. How can we, like I said, we have a couple boys right now that are kind of on that cusp individually. Like, what can we do to kind of set them up? We've already qualified some relays. We got those guys in there. Now, how do we get maybe a couple more relays in, so that, again, those kids that maybe you're going to be just an alternate, but getting to see that experience and experience that atmosphere is what we're always looking for. As far as the local meets and everything like that, anytime there's an unlimited entry, like that's huge for us, trying to bring as many kids as we can. But, again, we're not trying to hit this huge divide of your JV, your junior high, your elite, you're not. Like, the kids know if they're not a top 5, hey, you're probably not going to go to this meet. but we'll also mix and match some of that. Because again, we never go into a meet, honestly, except the state meet, trying to win it. Again, our goal is to get kids to compete and get kids to reach their maximum potential, and again, hopefully qualify for a region title, or excuse me, for a state championship. So, we don't ever look at, okay, what does this team bring in? What entries do they have? Even at the regional meet, we've had some chances in the past, like our girls team, I think that won state by 40 or 50 points, took second at regions because we were trying to get more girls in. And we had some girls that needed some time off. So we kind of just do things a little different with that, just because I think that state meet is such a big deal. And in our region, if you're going to be top three, that's usually a great plug for those kids that maybe aren't at that elite level. But in our region, if you're top three, you've already qualified by time or by distance. There is very rarely that there is a team going in or somebody that takes third that doesn't meet the qualifying standard. So, trying to mix and move kids to try to get in is really hard because our region is so incredibly loaded with talent. So that's kind of how we do it. Again, I know not everybody thinks that way, but again, that's kind of our motto. Our kids know that, and we try to make track be as fun and as competitive as we can. But we also are always looking to see, can we get 2 buses to state? That's our big goal. Can we get 2 buses to state? We want to take as many of those kids as we can.
Hey, Tommy, as always, thanks so much for your time and best of luck here over the next couple of weeks at track and field.
Hey, you guys are the best. Chase, go Squirrels.
And again, Tommy Butler with the Central Cass Squirrels track and field program. Well, as we discussed in the fall of 2024, we get John on 1 or 2 more times before he bids adieu with his role with the Minnesota State High School League as our honorary senior spotlight here, John. And the one nice thing about this is the weather's nice. Kids are out. We're not dealing with 3 feet of snow sometimes during this time of the year. And teams are having to find different ways to get track meets in or softball or baseball or golf meets in. So what's the one thing I guess you've been kind of hearing about this month of April as we get into May, where the weather forecast, quite frankly, has been a little bit ahead of schedule compared to the last couple of springs that we've had?
Yeah, it's spring in this part of the world. We know what we're going to get, and this has not been a terrible spring. There have been much worse. There have been better. This is kind of in the middle. A lot of outdoor things were rescheduled or canceled, and we're used to it. This comes with the territory, and I think everybody's pretty optimistic now. I'm sitting at home. I'm looking out my window, and green as could be, and sun is shining, and I think we're gonna finish strong here this spring.
I know when you go through our neck of the woods here in the Red River Valley, a lot of people wanted to kind of wait and see what the Moorhead Spuds boys hockey team could do. Could they finally get over that hump? And that was the big thing in AA this year here, John. They were able to do so, bringing home that first state championship. Just take us through the environment and what you kind of heard and saw from your perspective with the Spuds en route to that state championship.
Yeah, that was really fun, Chase. That was really fun, and anybody unbiased in that situation, you got to be pulling for the Spuds. And I'm unbiased, but I was under my breath saying go Spuds because it's a great story. And the guy I was really happy for was Larry Knudsen, the radio voice of the Spuds since the 70s. How many state tournament games had Larry done? How many championship games? And they'd never done it. And I know Larry got to be part of the celebration in the hotel later that night here in the Twin Cities. And I chatted with him before the game and just he was so pumped and he was so excited. He knew this was a good team. But, if you're the Spuds, you're at the Boys State Hockey Tournament. There's a track record and you don't like to talk about that. So to get that monkey off their back, to celebrate, and that celebration's never going to end, and it never should. That's a huge thing. And then the other part of the state hockey tournament on the boys' side was East Grand Forks. I mean, the Red River powerhouses came to play. It was really fun. And, and I'm a Metro guy. I didn't grow up in the Metro. I didn't grow up in Minnesota. I'm from Iowa. But I always kind of cheer for those outstate Minnesota teams that don't necessarily get the respect they deserve. And to see 2 teams from that part of the state win boys hockey championships, that was really something.
And we go from there to basketball, and there's a number of players that we can talk about here, John. But University of Women's Kentucky basketball commit Maddie Greenway, over 4,000 career points there for Providence Academy. And well, for coaches that are in that class, and they still got one more year to try to find a way to minimize her scoring opportunities, because you're not going to limit what she can do with the basketball here, John. But we've seen the Paige Buckers of the world. We've seen a lot of really good players. Folks will remember a generation of a Lindsay Whalen staying home and playing for the Gophers and going to the women's Final Four. So I guess, where's Maddie Greenway on a list of, is she, the old Mount Rushmore? Is she on a top 4? Is she on a top 5? Is it tough to compare, different eras, so to speak, of the women's game? Just kind of, what are your thoughts on her already over 4,000 career points and counting here?
It's tough to compare. Paige Buckers played in the biggest class, 4A. Providence Academy, where Madden plays, is 2A. They could move up a class or two if they wanted to. That's their choice, and I'm not hearing that they're planning to. But here's the bad news: if people are anxious for Madden Greenway to go away and play at Kentucky, she's got 3 younger sisters. One of them has played 2 years on the varsity now, because their dad, Chad Greenway, South Dakota guy, former Viking. I know Chad pretty well, and he's told me how his 4 daughters just run him ragged 24 hours a day. He's a great guy. Madden's a good kid. I don't know that it's easy to compare. I just don't. I saw a lot of Paige Buckers in high school at Hopkins. I'm not surprised what she did at UConn. She's going to be a superstar in the WNBA. She already is. With Madden, she's a different kind of player. She's not very big. She's super talented. She can do things with the basketball that few can do. And I think about maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, Chad and I were together somewhere, and I was asking him about the recruiting. So, she was a sophomore maybe, but I don't know. And he said way back then, he said, she really likes Kentucky. And that kind of caught me off guard. You're thinking you can go anywhere you want. You go to UConn, do you stay home and play for the Gophers? Do you go anywhere in the country? And to hear him say she really liked UConn. So to me, that tells me the coaches and the team down there, she found a good fit early on. And she'll be tremendous. It's a long ways from Minnesota. Chad's going to have to buy some gas and get down there. But it's not an easy compare, because she's not, Paige is 5'10", 5'11". Madden's not very big, but boy, she's strong. And, she's not only a multiple-time state champion in basketball. Her soccer team has won a state championship. She's a state champion in track and field, as a hurdler, on a relay. She's a 3-sport state champion. That puts her in some pretty good territory there.
Without question, especially going to the University of Kentucky. And sometimes as you get into those bigger areas, it's tough to maybe play on multiple varsity teams, just because of how much it takes to play on one team sometimes, John, just to show you the type of athlete she is. And just taking a look again at some of the future stuff that's going forward here for the spring, what should folks kind of be cognizant of on the calendars? It's kind of cool this year seeing some Twins baseball games, that there's a high school game after the fact, John. I know that's for the local area, so to speak, in the Fargo, in the Twin Cities metro of St. Paul. But what should some folks kind of plan on or kind of circle on their calendars moving forward here as we get into the month of May and June?
Yeah, the Twins have done a great job. You mentioned that they have some high school games scheduled after Twins home games. And they've had 1 or 2 involving teams from Iowa. I mean, they've really, really stretched the map here. So that's really neat. And that's where the spring season will end, at Target Field in June, with our 4 baseball state championship games in the middle of June. And it's interesting this year. We have a new sport. Boys volleyball is new under the Minnesota State High School League umbrella. Their state championship, their tournament, will be at University of St. Thomas in St. Paul. Some of the schedules are a little different this year. The softball tournament has always been played at Caswell Park in North Mankato. Great facility with 6 fields. Starting this year, the championship games will be played at the University of Minnesota softball field, which is a great facility. It's all artificial turf. It's a different kind of playing surface. Some of these teams never play on turf. Some coaches who weren't so sure this was the right thing to do express that. You might have to wear a different kind of spikes. The ball bounces differently. It's going to be an adjustment, but hopefully maybe some of these really good softball teams are looking for a college turf field to play on this year, just to know what that's like in case they get to the championship game. Our state track meet normally is a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. This year it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's at St. Michael Albertville High School. I believe they have graduation and other things going on Friday and Saturday. So it's a little bit of a jumbled schedule with some changes and a new sport. So I'm sure it's going to be fine. Knock on wood, weather, weather, weather. Let's hope. Let's hope. We'll see. But yeah, I'm excited. There's a lot of great stories to tell, and that's what I like to do. So we're going to keep telling some stories.
Yeah, and the boys volleyball going to be curious just to see after 1 year kind of the thoughts of the spring, because I know you and I chatted about a year ago, John, of is the spring the right time? Should you be doing it in the fall? Do you need to find officials and coaches and everything else? But it's good to see that they're doing it. Obviously, like any particular sport, you'll make the adjustments as needed after you do it for one particular year. But from your standpoint, John, as we talked about yourself being your own class of 2025 and being a senior here, as you got on the shirt, the honorary senior with your final year, kind of wrapping up everything through the spring, helping out in the summer, and then kind of going away at the end of August as you kind of venture into the new thing and new chapter in your life. Just what's a story or two, I guess, whether it was with the Minnesota State High School League prior to the Minnesota State High School League, when people ask, John, what is your favorite story, or what is a story or two that kind of comes to mind that maybe stretched farther than what you thought the reach of the article or the reach of the interview that you did? What's one or two that kind of come to mind for you here, John?
Yeah, Chase, I'm being asked that question quite a bit. A favorite story, a favorite type of story, and I've written, I don't know how many times, about kids who are missing a limb and do great things in athletics. A golfer who went to state, she was born with one leg, went to state as a junior, went back as a senior. I wrote about her in her senior year. Her goal was to win a medal. She won a medal at the state golf tournament as a senior. And after that, I had written about her during that season. Her mom took a picture of me with the young lady with the medal around her neck. That was 15 years ago. And that picture's been sitting on my desk for 15 years. And we keep in touch. She's a mom now. That's 15 years ago. Football player from Stephen Argyle back when they were the nine-man powerhouse. Fell off a tractor at 3 years old, leg cut off at the knee, prosthetic leg, played football and basketball. Incredible. Just a lot of stories like that just stand out to me. That are maybe not superstar, they're not D1 athletes, but boy, do they enjoy being part of the team. They're inspirational to everybody, and those stories are out there all the time. As we talk today, I'm getting ready to go to Bloomington Kennedy High School to talk to a badminton player who moved here 3 years ago as a refugee from Ukraine, never played badminton before. She's the #1 ranked player in Minnesota. I don't know a lot more than that right now, but come on. These are great stories. And I've kind of figured out over the last year or two that I'm writing about high school sports, high school activities, certainly, but I'm writing about people. That's what this whole thing is. I'm writing about people. I don't write game stories. I'm not going into X's and O's. I'm writing about people and adversity and successes and lessons. And I just been so fortunate and so lucky to do this for so long.
Have you had an article ever titled, or have you ever done a badminton story before then, John? Although all the stories, because sometimes, you go through varsity sports, and a lot of times sports like badminton aren't necessarily state sanctioned. They're more club sports or something that the local couple of schools that, hey, we can field a trap shooting team, or we can do something that maybe the state league or the local activities association within a state doesn't necessarily sanction. So is badminton something you ever written about before?
This will be the first one, and we have a kind of this unique category with the Minnesota State High School League. Badminton is not fully sanctioned, but the Badminton Coaches Association runs the sport. We provide awards for the state tournament. We kind of put our stamp on the state tournament. Same thing with the clay target shooting. We have a handful of those. So no, I've never done a badminton story. I found out about this young lady yesterday, and I'm going to go see her play and do some interviews and hopefully come out with an interesting story. But yeah, this is everything's new. I've been doing this for 51 years. I've never written a badminton story. I'm kind of pumped about that.
I guess the real question is, are you going to go against her at all? Are you going to say, hey, first one to five, let's go in there and take a serve and see how that, that flies across the net?
That's not going to happen. I learned my lesson years ago. I was at the Star Tribune, and Eastview High School in Apple Valley had one of the best pitchers in the country. And the Star Tribune was just starting to do some video things. The website was new, and so we had this great idea. I'm going to go try to get a hit against this pitcher. So got a hold of the coach who I knew. He said, "Oh, this will be fun." Sure. Really cold day. So the photographer was there from the paper, someone with a video camera. And I told her, she and her catcher are there. I'm standing in there with my winter gloves on. It's so cold. I said, just throw me fastballs. Just throw me fastballs. I managed to get a bat on one. It didn't leave the infield. And then she threw a changeup, which she wasn't supposed to do. And there was a picture in the paper with the story of me, just like one of those guys flailing, just I'm almost falling over. So I learned my lesson. I was badly embarrassed once, and I'm not going to let a badminton player do that to me again.
It's John's journal here. John, the final thing, if people want to get in touch with your articles or just see kind of what you have brewing with badminton or other stories coming up, where's a good spot to go? And I know last time we chatted, why should someone kind of get into the industry? And you kind of mentioned that you got kind of pulled in as a high school kid and you started working at the paper, and you weren't necessarily getting paid to do it necessarily. You're writing the game recaps, but we'll start with the first one. Where can people find your work? And number two, why should someone get involved, whether it's prep sports, local sports, youth sports, collegiate sports? Why should someone just get involved and do the stuff that you're kind of doing with those profiles?
Yeah, two good questions. John's journal, those stories are at MSHSL.org. If you just scroll down a bit, you'll see a picture of me, and all the stories are there. And as far as getting involved in this, my first 3 years as a journalist, I didn't make a penny. I was a high school kid writing for my hometown paper in Iowa. And my English teacher, who I revere to this day, she's long gone, Mrs. White, pulled me aside one day after English class. Hey, the lady who runs the paper, the weekly paper, is looking for a student to write the stories from the football games. School was just starting. She said, you're on the football team and you know how to write, which was a pretty good ego boost for a sophomore in high school. So I was the sports writer at my high school for 3 years, writing about whatever sport it was, boys or girls. You realize you can do that for a career. That was 51 years ago, that first byline in my hometown paper. And I've never worked a day in my life. And this is the greatest profession. I don't know what I'd have done other than this. My backup plan probably would have been education, teach and coach, but I wouldn't have been as skilled at that as I think I am at this. This is, and I'm so lucky because I've covered professional sports. But high school sports is where my heart is, and I am going to retire in August, and I'm going to disappear for a while. I don't know that I'm going to disappear permanently. I might return in some form, to be decided. I don't know. I may just decide retirement is great, and I'll just be retired. But we'll see. I'll get the itch back probably at some point. But yeah, any especially young people who love sports, and that was me. My kids, my mom and dad never worried where I was if there was a sporting event in town. If I was a little kid and the high school kids were practicing or playing, that's where I was. They never worried about me, and I've been involved in sports my whole life, and that's not going to stop. And I just think it's a great profession. There's certainly, like any profession, there can be speed bumps along the way, but take a little grit, a little determination, learn a few things from other people, and it's just a fantastic way to spend your life.
Hey, John, thanks again for being our honorary senior spotlight here for the class of 2025. Thank you for everything on behalf of those who have followed your work. We're looking forward to continuing to follow your work for the next couple months here before you bid adieu.
Very good, Chase. Always great talking to you.
That does it for the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show. Thank you so much for tuning in all season long, and that puts a bow on our 2024-25 school year here of the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show. For more high school sports coming up throughout the month of May, make sure you go to our website, YourLiveEvent.com. Again, on behalf of everybody that's worked with us here on the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show, I'm Chase Miller. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night.